Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Turning Your Colleagues into Champions for Customer Marketing panel. My name is Bridget Heaton, and I am the Senior Manager of Customer Marketing at Slack, which is also Salesforce. So I've been in customer marketing now about, I like to round up to 10 years, but I'm really grateful to have built customer marketing programs in education tech, in big data, and now working at Slack. It's a wild, wild world and a lot of fun. But today, I'm going to be wearing a very different hat. I'm going to be like a hybrid Hoda Kotb, Andy Cohen, Barbara Walters for this session. And I know you've all seen that Barbara Walters TikTok thing that's been going around. Like, no one?
For the record, Andy Cohen always has alcohol involved, and that was not given to us.
We were not allowed to bring wine in. We did ask. But yeah, it's really
that
nice.
looks like a beer right there.
Kombucha.
Oh.
Yikes. Well, I will say I am sorry that I joined the event really late. So if you see me, please introduce yourself. I will be catching up on the recordings. I absolutely love this event. I was lucky enough to speak in Vegas earlier this year, made some awesome friends from it. So please don't be a stranger. All right, so let's dig in. I am so incredibly excited to be joined by two amazing customer marketers. Daniel Pillay, who's the Senior Customer Advocacy Manager at Grafana Labs, and Leslie Patterson, the Vice President of Global Customer Advocacy and Engagement at Genesys. We were supposed to be a third, Liz Adams. She's the Senior Customer Marketing Manager at Amplify, but unfortunately she's sick today, so we did want to just give a shout out to her because this was her session idea. I know, I know. Yeah, claps for Liz Adams. All right, so I was super inspired by these two in our prep call. You're really passionate about this topic. There's a lot to share, so let's jump in. Why don't you both, Daniel, why don't you start and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello. Good evening, I think. My name is Daniel Pillay, and I run the Global Customer and Community Marketing team at a company called Grafana Labs. Grafana Labs is an open, we're an open source company. We produce an open and composable observability platform. In fact, many of the customers or many of the people who spoke today, in fact, both of the people on this panel, their companies use our software. If you want to know what we do, I'm happy to talk to you afterwards. In fact, one of our product marketing managers is in the room now, so go talk to him afterwards. But the point that I like to talk about is we give away our software for free. So 95% of the people that we could talk to when it comes to customer marketing don't pay us at all, which means we have to structure our time a whole lot better and a whole lot more strategically when we get that 5%. How do we draw out that customer story? But that 95% is actually quite valuable because if you think about it, we're just trying to expand the funnel at the top. And people who aren't already using our software need to be convinced and hugged in their feelings like, it's okay that we're using open source software. So we need to get them in the top of the funnel by telling the stories of open source users. And then eventually a percentage of them will pay us, and Farhan and I will keep having our jobs. I've been doing this job for now 2 years. Before that, I was at Elastic for 6.5, where I also did this job. I got a lot of scars from that one that I'm trying to do a lot better this time. And in my spare time, I play ice hockey and hang out and watch like Ted Lasso and drink wine. So happy to talk about all those things. And for anyone else who traveled from far away, I'm from San Jose, California, so outside is very cold right now.
We did not cover that he played ice hockey. I played for 20 years. We need to talk about that. Happy hour chats. Leslie.
Yes. Leslie Patterson. I lead our customer advocacy and customer engagement program at Genesys. And Genesys is for anyone that doesn't know, we are a CX software solution. So we are the platform that if you are, say you're reaching out to Airbnb or Zillow or Uber or HelloFresh, and you're communicating with that organization, you are communicating through Genesys software, whether that's through a chatbot, a SMS, or voice, that is Genesys solutions. So we have a team of about 10 people focused completely on advocacy and engagement. The way we're structured is, I believe, the secret sauce to really prime advocacy is through engagement directors who are mapped to the strategic accounts within regions. I've seen it mapped different ways in my career. I've been doing this since '99. Y'all can do the math. And I really believe in the regional alignment. Then we also have people focused on case studies, on voice of the customer programs, all sorts of different stuff. So I say all the time, I think that my team and I have the best jobs on the planet. I think everyone in this room does. When you think about it, we are talking to customers who are happy. My customers pay for software, so we're not free. But yeah, when you think of all the jobs that are out there, we really do we're in a very unique place doing this really cool thing we do. So, yeah.
I love that question. I'm actually going to ask a question that we didn't plan, but how did you both get into customer marketing?
That's a fun story. I was sitting at my desk. I was 3 months into my first ever tech job. I was hired to be a marketing coordinator to run social media and do some stuff on our internal wiki. Still trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do in general, scared of everybody. And so, because my background isn't in tech. In fact, like my dad is the computer scientist. I rebelled against my parents by getting a degree in political science. Yet somehow I'm back in tech. So I'm sitting there. Our CMO at the time comes walking out of a meeting, stops at my desk. She says, so we just had a board meeting, and we need to centralize all of our customer stories. Go.
Oh, wow.
So I started making it up as I went along very quickly. Spreadsheet became my best friend for a while. In fact, I still have that spreadsheet to this day, not because any of the data is worthwhile. It's like an old job, but I remember I kept it so I could look at it when times are really bad and be like, guess what? It could get a lot worse.
Take it back to your roots.
I like the spirit of that. Leslie, what about yourself?
Yeah, so I was an advertising major in college and started doing advertising and realized I was working I can say ass, can I? I was working my ass off and I wasn't making any money. And I had these friends who were in this place called Software and they were rolling in it. I mean, they were pulling up in like a brand new Jeep and I'm like, oh, I want that. So I went and applied for a CSM job at Computer Associates and didn't get it, but they're like, well, we have this marketing role. Back then it was called reference. That's all we did, was referencing. This whole idea of customer marketing and advocacy, those weren't even terms we used back then. So yeah, I feel like now I need to get my walker and like walk off stage.
No, not at all.
And for the record, it's almost 5 o'clock and we're in New York, so I'm pretty sure you can say ass.
Yeah, you can definitely say ass in New York.
I can and I did.
No, thank you for sharing that. I think that's interesting. I mean, so much of today, in addition to these topics, is meeting other people in the field. And so it's interesting to understand where people come from and how people have randomly found their way into this very awesome, as you said, very special industry. I was in nonprofit. I worked as a program assistant and for like 5 years, worked in international education, moved into ed tech, was like the social media gal. And then I just made up customer advocacy without really knowing that I made it up, and then scaled it with Influitive. And I spent a long time doing that, and I ended up starting customer marketing when they decided to label it that, like 7-8 years ago. They decided to call it customer marketing. It's fun. Anyway, so in order to shake things up, again, it's all about getting to know people here. I thought it would be fun if we did some rapid fire questions to start.
Because we've not already.
I can't, because it's 4:30, it's 4:50, we gotta keep it light. So a couple quick fire, a couple phrases, like it doesn't have to be one word, but we can try it. These are fun. So like, what's a key quality or skill that you think makes a great customer marketer, Leslie?
Personality.
Personality.
I'll say that loud.
Personality. I can see that.
Stick-to-itiveness.
Ooh, good word.
Explain.
You hit a lot of walls and get a lot of PTSD and like a lot of times where your customers just ghost you. Like we just finished a case study that I started 637 days before it got approved. And you know what? It got approved, it went online, and I celebrated with a drink when it went online. It may have been like 10 a.m., but still it went online, damn it.
That's called a Friday meeting on my team.
I think it was a Tuesday.
Question 2. I made this scale up, so bear with me. How mature, in your opinion, is the customer marketing program you're currently working on? Why I think this is helpful, as they continue to answer questions, you can be like, oh, does that sound like where I am with my program? So I have 3 here: build mode, growth mode, or scaling. And I made those up. So like building mean like, like you're something from the ground up. You're like the first or second or third hire. You're really just developing the frameworks. Growth, you developed them. It's live. Is it working? And then scaling. Oh, hey, it's working. I got more people and now I can do more things. Or maybe major enterprise.
I would say all of the above.
It's sweet.
But this is actually, so next month will be the end of my 2nd year at Grafana. And so I think, for the most part, we're getting to that scale part because we're now up to a team of 3. Team of 10 sounds amazing.
We were bigger before.
We've fluctuated this year, and it's been fun. But I told my team this quarter alone, because this is our 4th quarter, I said, your main purpose this quarter, and I think somebody said this earlier today about, because we're planning for next year, our motto for this quarter is slow down to speed up.
Sweet.
The job right now is to understand how we did this year, what did we do well, what did we do badly, and come up with a plan so when we hit the downbeat of February 1st and our fiscal year changes, we can go out to every single person in the company and say, this is our new plan, because we've spent this entire quarter planning and executing a little bit, but we told our team, we're going to produce less, but it'll be better for the company.
What were my choices?
It was like build, growth, or scale.
Scale, but constantly learning.
Ooh, I like that. I like that a lot. And I think, Daniel, your answer is really pertinent considering the economic climate. I think it's definitely like, I literally just did a Q&A with a customer today on the main stage, and they were talking about how throwing multiple strategies, it's just not the time to do that, but it's time to focus in. So I think that's really good advice. So knowing that, what's your number 1 priority for next year?
Tracking leads that happen in the conversations that I witness and my team witnesses, because right now we are struggling with getting street cred for the fact that we actually generate leads. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Street cred.
Street cred, i.e. funding, i.e.
We'll get to that. That's coming.
Establishing new and better types of content. So right now, we're kind of, because of the small team we had, it was either you get a case study, unless we're talking about a talk on stage. So we'll take that out. You get a case study or you get a guest blog. That was it. Because that's what our content team could establish. And then we're like, well, we only produce like 3 or 4 case studies per quarter, maybe 5 guest blogs, but those are really labor intensive on both sides. So we're coming up with things in the middle that have shorter production timeframes that still get the value out, that are targeted towards our business's needs. So that's one of the things we're establishing this quarter to really get into the practice of doing that.
That's perfect. A quick one. Where does customer marketing sit in your organization?
Marketing.
Marketing. Is it its own department under marketing, or is it under product marketing?
Not yet.
Well, that's the goal. That's the dream.
We're in corporate communications and content. So my peers are the content team, the PR team, and then our technical documentation team. And my boss is our director of communications.
Interesting.
Senior director of communications, if she's watching.
That's up to you. Yeah, no, I've been under PMM mostly, product marketing, but I have been under demand gen too, which has been also awesome.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I know.
How'd that work?
Wait, how did that work? That's really interesting.
This isn't about me.
You're up here, girl.
It's 2 against 1. We asked the same question. You go.
Okay, fine.
I've never heard that.
No, I think it really has to do, I honestly think it has to do with size company. So that was when I was in like a company that was less than 300 people, and it's just growth mode. It's more of that growth mode where it's like there were 8 of us on the marketing team wearing multiple hats. I think I did like every marketing job you could possibly do in those 5 years. Like I even did PR and like, you know, demand and content and all that. And I think as it slowly scaled into trying to be a mid-sized company, it just kept it under demand. But it was honestly amazing because I build community. That's a big specialty of mine, and being able to have growth marketing help support that. It's like you can flex big time and get a lot of promotion for your programs.
Yeah.
I will also say that, I don't know if you experienced this, but our head of marketing comes from a demand gen background, which means I don't necessarily have to, and our team doesn't necessarily have to figure out how to attribute everything we do to a dollar amount, because he's like, I know that not any one thing will push something forward, right? We could talk about the amount of reference calls we've done, but show of hands, not that like I'm gonna insult anybody here, but how many people here actually think somebody talking on a phone is the one thing that gets somebody to buy something? Right. This is what my boss allows us to do, right? We're just a cog in the wheel. And so it allows us to be more free with that content. It allows us to be more free with what we do because we're not beholden to, you must affect X amount of money.
That makes a lot of sense. I think everybody answered correctly. That would have been sad otherwise. Okay. So, wait, there's one more, and this is a very important one to the topic of the day. Who are the key stakeholders or audiences for your programs?
For mine, it's the customers are number one, the sales and CSMs, so the field teams, are number two.
I would say everybody we deal with, whether it's the customers or.
That's a really big answer.
I think it's targeted in how we think about it. The way we think about it is our job is to help everybody get from point A to point B faster. So we define our success as that. For the salespeople, it's how do we get them to sell something quicker? For an SDR, how do we get somebody to qualify a lead quicker? For a customer, how do we get them to showcase their value quicker? For an executive who is on a call with a PR or a press person, how do we allow them to have a story quicker? So we kind of define our personas, define who we're talking. Let that be the definition of what we view as success. So while it does seem broad, it's sort of we take it in segments.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think it's a great lead into the topic of the day. So why are we here? Why are we talking about this? We thought we would start with a very obvious but important question. Why is it important that you turn your colleagues into champions for customer marketing? Like, why?
I mean, we do that for a living with customers. Why not do it internally? Also, raise your hand if you're on a team that's less than 5 people. Raise your hand if you're supporting an organization that is at least 10 times that. There's your answer. We like to sleep. We like to not respond to everything at any time. And if you can have people that force multiply you internally, whether those the people in APAC or in EMEA or reverse in America if you don't live in America, it'll allow you to be freed up to do more things, to think more strategically, to execute on those plans. Plus, you'll be happier and healthier because you won't actually be plugged in all the dang time.
Yeah. Well, you've got Ari's agreement, so you're good.
Yeah. I think a really simple way to say it is that it ensures the success of your program and the success of yourself at the company and keeping your job and keeping funding for your program in so many ways.
And it enables growth for your team too, I think. That's a big thing. If you're leading a team, I think being able to find avenues for growth is the way that you create loyalty, but also motivate. So, yeah.
So motivate, value is really like that big meaty word that we use a lot. How would you say that your programs demonstrate value, or maybe even harken back to motivation? Like, how are you using those programs to motivate others?
To motivate others? Well, really, it comes down to the fact that I try and be as Captain Obvious as I can with especially my executive teams, that the customer story is oftentimes the piece to the puzzle when you're in a sales cycle. It is the one that can truly be a catalyst, especially if it's utilized at the right time and to the right set of ears at the prospect or existing customer if it's an expansion. And that, just seeing that happen, mean, there's people in my team in here that would say that serves as a massive motivator when you see that connection happen and you see a deal close that you either brought 3 reference calls into that deal, and those were you scraped your elbows, you did a lot of work to try and get those reference calls, but they happened. That serves as a point of motivation. I think just having that pride of work is a big deal.
That's a good one. What about you, Daniel?
What was the exact question again? I want to make sure I don't I don't want to ramble on.
No. First of all, everyone's here to hear you, so you say what you want to say.
That's their problem. I want to be more succinct in what I'm saying.
No. So this is really about value. I think if you're turning internal folks into champions, value's at the core of that. So how do you define value and demonstrate value for your programs?
Yeah, I think I just outed myself by saying I don't care about money. So again, it goes back to we help people to do their jobs better and do their jobs quicker. And I think a lot of people today talked about the value you provide your customers. They can get more funding. They can have job security. They can be viewed as innovators. In fact, I think we just had a talk where somebody talked about how they wanted to be viewed as a modern company, so they chose our software. And so they can now go to their bosses and be like, look, we're a modern company because we're using this software. So yeah, I extract my value and our team's value by just helping people do better and do quicker. And that could be anywhere from getting us out of the loop. They can go use our automated systems. They can see our website. They can use the 100 slides we have available to them. But if I get less questions, then I sleep better at night.
These are great answers. I mean, I guess for me, value is always a really big thing. I talk about it a lot in my sessions with CMA. And I think in addition to just like having to show and tie to the dollars and all of those funny quantitative metrics, I think qualitative is just as important, especially when it comes to this topic. I think both of you hit the nail on the head with this, and I couldn't agree more. The more that you can empower your stakeholders internally to feel like they're providing value, and if you're partnering with them to help them succeed and they're helping you succeed, advocacy is all about that give and that get, and the same thing applies internally. Like if you're giving them a customer story, they better get you a customer for it. So it's definitely important to.
I use the banking analogy.
I want to hear it. Let's go.
I did this years ago when I was at Computer Associates. I said, because I was getting nothing from this sales team. I mean, it was like raisins, right? When I would ask for new references. It was all dried up. And I said, all right. And I got up at this meeting and I said, look, if y'all just keep making withdrawals and no deposits, I'm going to be overdrawn. I'm going to have nothing to pull from. All of a sudden, the minute you relate it to money, it's like all these light bulbs above the heads of all these sales guys went off. And all of a sudden, we just started having all these leads come in, and it was crazy. And so I've used that analogy for years. My husband, who's in sales, uses that analogy too, because I mean, everyone can relate to that. So yeah.
No, I love that analogy. I might steal it myself, to be honest. So I guess we've talked about value. There's multiple ways to show value, from an individual level to the business impact level. So how do you actually get, how do you actually promote the work you're doing into these audiences in a way that gets them to buy in and form this sort of reciprocal bond with you, and where you take over the world with customer stories or whatever? How do you promote it?
It's a great question. Multiple ways. First of all, we have, and this is one of those things that I did horrifically bad at my last job. And so I took a lot of lessons of you need to insert yourself early. So we actually have a place at sales onboarding boot camps that we can talk about the value that we provide, how and why you should partner with us. We even demo our system on their second week so they can know what they're doing. But then we have time on the weekly sales call every Friday morning if we want to talk about references, and so we try to be very succinct. But I take a view of any moment that I am taking up of the sales team time or the SDR team time is a moment they're not doing their job. Their job is to sell things, right? Their job is to get leads. So I better give them a damn good reason why they should pay attention to me and my team. So when we produce a new case study, when we produce a new customer reference, we make sure that we have every duck in the row. We have the reason why it's important for everybody to pay attention. We have a slide that they can use. We have the link that they can that they have. And every time we do this, we here in the sales team room that has 450 people in it. Nobody bats an eye because they know that when we speak, we mean business.
As a Slack employee, I have to say, that's bold. But it's probably really effective, honestly. Did you want to add
Well,
any?
I was just going to say, it's funny because I see my job, and I've seen my job since the day I got to Genesis, because I'd spent a long time at Oracle, and I saw things that I feel like if we would have had the ability to have this really good mind share of our top executives, we could have accomplished even more. So when I came to Genesis and we started building this program out, I said, okay, my job, my sole focus is to promote the hell out of what we do and not just do it one and done, to where like literally my job was to build relationships with our top executives to the point to where when they were thinking about anything having to do with customer, they would think of this team. And it's to the point now where literally if I go down my text string, if I haven't seen a text from one of our execs in a while, I'm like, oh, shoot, I gotta text them to make sure we're still relevant. You know, it has to be that level. And that has enabled so much for this team to be able to do that we wouldn't have been able to dream of doing in our former world. So not to like diss Oracle, but it was a totally different mindset at the leadership level. So when I was given the chance to go and reset that, I was like, oh, I know how I'm going to do this.
So
yeah.
How did you do that? Like, I imagine that's a hard thing, and everyone's here like, how am I going to go talk to them?
Lead with valuable stories. Lead with the stuff. Get to know what is meaningful to that executive. Is it numbers? Are you talking to the CFO? Is it product stories? Are you talking to the CPO? Is it sales conversion? Are you talking to the CRO? Like, it depends on who you're talking to, but make sure that when you come to them, you're bringing them something that is going to be an aha moment to them, right? And make sure you always, I sat at the personalized table, and I don't even think we unpacked personalization, but one of the things that I was gonna say was the fact that when going into each meeting, I don't go into a meeting with some of our executives thinking, oh, I'm just going to give them the same presentation I just gave the CSM leadership team. No, it has to be catered to exactly what's going to mean something to them each and every time. And once you build that reputation with them, it's amazing how they suddenly start to come to you for everything they need around the customer. So, but you can't stop. You can't ever stop. I've got our chief strategy officer, who I adore. He knows exactly what we do, but every time I come to him still, I'm trying to reiterate what we're doing every single time. So, and now it's a beautiful thing. It's a lot of work, and it's hard to do if you have a really small team. I'm so lucky in the fact that we've been given a lot of freedom to build this team out, but even if you have a small team, as much as you can, go and be in front of your executives in a meaningful and impactful way.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
What level were you at when you had your first C-suite meeting like that?
Did everybody hear that question?
At Genesis?
The question was, what level were you at when you had your first C-suite meeting?
So at Genesis, I came in as a VP. At Oracle, I think I was a director, and I met with our CMO. So
it's a good question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But we were blessed at Oracle with an amazing chief customer officer who I just adore. In fact, after he departed is when I soon departed. So that was a huge help there. So, yeah.
Dana, do you want to add something?
Yeah, and I think Megan brought this point up earlier, which is humanize them, right? Executives are human. I know they're scary. I know a lot of us come into this, especially I came in, first time I met with a CEO, I was a marketing coordinator. I'm like, you're not behind a glass wall. What the hell do you do? What are you doing knowing my name? I want to go back in a corner. But it's one of those things that if you talk to them, if you understand what makes them tick, going back to your point, Leslie, is you need to know what's important to them in order to know how to answer those questions. And so once you humanize them, you realize that they're not big and scary. You also realize that, and I think when we talked about this before, one of my biggest messages is that you realize that you have power. They hired you to do a job, right? Which means they inherently trust your expertise. So embrace that knowledge that no matter what level you are, they hired you to do the job. And if they don't trust you, then that's on them. That is not on you. So be confident in what you know and go to them and be like, hey, this is how we're doing customer marketing. Please help me inform how we're going to do customer marketing at this company because I might be relatively new, but this is my knowledge and you hired me to do a job.
I think that, that's incredible. No, there's a little applause in the front. That is incredibly, honestly, it's really powerful. And I think it takes several years of being thrown around in tech in your 20s or something to figure that out. And so take that note, own it. You're important. You matter.
Well,
you were hired for a reason.
I would say also, once you get one win, one of those under your belt, the rest are so much easier.
Oh God, yes.
Just sit there and just bathe in that feeling you had after the first time when you just nailed it with a C-level, you know?
And then promote it.
Yeah.
Promote your wins.
Uh-huh.
I would agree with everything you're saying. I think one note I wanted to add personally is that I think any company you work at, my experience is B2B enterprise SaaS, but anywhere, every single person at that company is going to have in their OKRs or whatever that they want to put customers at the center of everything they do. But in order to put customers at the center of everything they do, who do they need to turn to? Customer marketing, who's usually understaffed and working overtime. So again, believe in yourself and your abilities. You are strategically important to the organization. And it's really important that you own that and you use that to build those relationships in the ways that we talked about, targeting the messaging to the right audience, targeting the value that you can provide those people and the value they can provide you. These are reciprocal and mutual relationships. Cadence and consistency and communications, as you said. And lastly, just being open to collaborate because they just want their voices heard too, usually in the programs you're running, because we're running the fun programs and they want to be with us. So
the one thing I'd also add to that, and I know we don't have a ton of time left, is one thing that we've been very conscientious about doing is making sure we involve our executives in the stuff we're doing. So when you get them involved in, we do these reference forum calls. I know a lot of y'all do this, but it's like a one-to-many reference call, but we record them and stuff. If we bring in our CPO into that call and have him help get engaged, all of a sudden what we do becomes very real to him and he remembers it and he'll talk about it again and again. Like what we do also with the cabs. We just try and pull them in as much as we can because all of a sudden they've got skin in the game. So we just wrapped up our North American Armia cabs in November. We just came off our all hands call yesterday, our company all hands call, and our chief product officer literally name dropped our 2 cabs as saying, I just attended these 2 amazing meetings, these advisory board meetings. And I don't know that we would have had that mind share with him if we wouldn't have pulled him in, got him involved in the planning, the execution, as well as the follow-up. So
love that.
Yeah, we definitely do that. I CC, anytime we send a note to our cab, even if it's just hey, hello, we CC our chief operating officer, just so he knows that it's continually going. And same thing, when we had our all hands after our big conference, both our CEO, our VP of technology, and our CEO talked about how we had a cab meeting there, and it's cool. It's an easy win.
And great validation.
Yeah.
So we have about 1 minute left, but we have one, I think, really important question. So we can maybe take this as a rapid fire answer, and we'll keep it short. But what we wanted to do is we wanted to end with what's one tactic that people in this room could take away today on this topic? Like, what's one program they could implement, an idea? Is it the way to showcase the success of their program, or maybe just a way to engage internal advocates? Like, what can somebody do tomorrow?
Learn how to say no more. I think you can actually be viewed as more strategic by saying no, not because you want to be antithetical to the progress, but again, like 95% of y'all raised your hands. There's only so many hours in a day, and if you are tired, if you are overworked, you're not going to be doing great work. So if you say no, it's not no, never. It is no, but how can I help you right now? How can we get to 85 or 80% of your ask? Because guess what? The 80-20 rule is a thing, and you can still actually do a lot of value by saying that. Plus, I would be remiss not to say that saying no actually reinforces better behavior in people asking you. They'll stop asking you at odd hours. They will stop asking you for things that you cannot do because they realize you actually provide more value when they ask you the things that are possible.
I'm going to take that advice. Leslie.
And I know we're 27 seconds.
You got this.
So I would say do your homework and go in with more confidence than you would normally give yourself credit for. You know your stuff better than anyone else at your company. Know that, own that. When you go and talk to executives, like I say, bathe in it. Just go in there knowing you know, I'm not going to be crass, but you know your stuff, right? So own it. Don't hesitate. Don't question. You know it better than anyone else. But also do your homework.
And I think I'll add, I'll plug Slack, and I'll say, Slack one of your stakeholders tomorrow and invite them to give feedback on one of your programs and see what they can do for you and what you can do for them. So that concludes us, and I just want to say thank you so much to our all-star panelists, Leslie and Daniel. Everybody go buy them a free glass of wine in the lobby, and thank you for your time.
Free glass of wine.
Go buy a free glass.
I like
Yeah.
it.
Is that like free software?
Pretty much, yeah.
Real quick, sorry. We had a few questions come in, but there's a theme with most of them. Somebody says that as a one-man band building their company's first ever customer marketing program, there's endless internal demand, can't keep up. We just need to unpack that concept of no. How do we do that?
Yeah, it's a great question. First, find a comfortable pillow and hit it a couple times. But I think it goes back to looking at the data, right? Most people, I hope everybody here has access to your CRM, right? Which means you have access to your opportunity data, which means you can go in and run a report that says, where is the money coming from? Where are the opportunities that are scheduled to close in this fiscal year? What industry are they on? What use case are they in? And how does that vary by location? Guess what? Data doesn't lie. Use that to prioritize what's coming in, and then cross-reference it with the advocates you already have, right? Because if somebody comes to you and says, hey, we need a reference in Azerbaijan, you're going to be like, look at the data. Is there anything coming from Azerbaijan? And if there is, then sure, you can tell it. But the idea there is use the data as your backup. Because again, salespeople, sales ops, they understand data and they can't really argue it. Well, they can argue with it, but then you can just be like, no.
If I could wait, I would also say focus on what's going to have the biggest impact to your business that you can clearly articulate.
Ditto. And I'd also say, like, I am like obsessed with a good discovery process. Like, you should always be in like some element of discovery process with your entire company, like meeting regularly with key stakeholders. It's like, it takes 6 months, even when you're starting to implement like tactics, like keep meeting with everybody across the company. Make sure that you're understanding everyone's needs. You don't have to boil the ocean. Start very tactically and very strategically. But yeah, have a longer game plan.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for all of the insights you shared. Brilliant.